это обсуждать завтра, послезавтра. Мы не завершаем эту дискуссию. Мы только завершаем эту работу на сегодня. Я очень прошу, чтобы те группы, у которых плакаты готовы, делегировали спикера, который в течение 3 минут расскажет нам самое главное. Okay. Уважаемые коллеги, очень трудно организовать такой бурный процесс. Давайте сделаем это так. Есть группы, которые уже готовы. Есть группы, у которых есть черновики, но они не успели этого написать на бумаге. И есть группы, которые продолжают что-то обсуждать. Мы тоже попросим их высказать свое мнение. Я предлагаю сесть на свои места. Садимся. Там, где вы. Супер. Хорошо, хорошо. Sekretarz grupy może продолжать свою работу потихоньку. Я прошу внимания у остальных. Есть группы, которые хотят выступить первыми, их 2. Одна будет первая.
Okay, so yours is to be the first group. Он все равно не хочет. Now pay attention to whoever is going to make a presentation. It's difficult for us to work, sure, but we shall be discussing it today and tomorrow as well. We have 6 groups altogether. Please be brief. It is not a presentation of all of your work. Just chief things, 3 minutes for each. Hello. Our group will be the first to speak, will be brief. Reality. We have state standards and educational programs on civil education. There are attempts of free elections at school. We are understaffed, our parents are passive, and children have no idea about civil education and democracy. We need to raise interest in civil education. We need autonomy of our school. It should be open. We need all mechanisms of subject to education uh, to develop democratic values. Reasons why it is not so bureaucratization of the educational process. This is the chief reason. There are contradictions of legal and normative base, a lack of environment to implement practices of civil education. Children don't know how to use this information, and there is no coordination in different educational institutions. You need to teach pedagogues in the area of civil education. You have to study and implement successful practices into civil education. Thank you. Thank you very much to this group. Now we invite the second group. Well, actually, it will be more or less similar in different groups, but that will mean that we think along the same lines. What is our reality? There are certain components at school like lessons, history, literature, social studies, and non-training components. When you go out of school with children to museums and so on, there are weeks of legal knowledge. There is a school self-governance and school planning. It's all there. Our goal is to build a castle on the sand, meaning to bring up a citizen, and we require an integrated approach which includes all the system of education to bring up a citizen. And it is not about different subjects, but you have to work with parents, administration, local community. What is the hindrance? Bureaucratization and a personality factor, because whatever we do, we confront the personality factor, which is incompetent teachers, for instance, or, well, administrators, bad administrators, or problems with parents, and so on. What shall we do? To work with the carriers of information, meaning everybody whom we work with, like teachers, administration, local community, parents, and children. You have to be active in your civil attitude. Otherwise, you wouldn't reach the results. You need feedback from teachers to parents, from parents to administration and to children, and so on. These are horizontal ties, exchange of opinions between different levels of education. We thank the group. Now, next. Звук идет. Where is the problem? Civil education is formal. What is the real situation? Pluses and minuses. Minuses. Uh, Poor content. So all the programs are of declarative nature. Civic element is absent, as well as culture of civil education, including is absent, and that relates to parents as well. There are real practices of democratic procedures. And there is a school community of projects with the involvement of pupils. There are authors' initiatives. There are special courses of social studies and civil studies at schools. Now, what we would like to see, acquiring social practices through a real experience or practical experience. So it's not theory but practice, interaction between participants of the education process, including parents, active social stand of children, and that includes dealing with parents and democratic atmosphere at schools. Why it is not so now? Teachers are overloaded. All participants lacking motivation. No social demand. People think that this is not urgent. People do not see the advantages of civil education. Some people say why we need this. And another issue, what can I personally do? I am alone. So we have to teach our rights and responsibilities of all the participants of the educational process. You develop professional communities among teachers. You change the system of training of teachers in the area of civil education, and you develop partnership networks between all the participants of the educational process. And you engage into all educational processes our parents. That's it. Now, group 4. Good evening. The problem of civil education at school is no interaction between theory and practice. Civil education at schools now is that it is not studied thoroughly. Well, at each class hour we discuss this issue. School reflects the society, and the problem of staff is a very big problem. What we would like to see, teacher carries civil values. Parents are to be involved in education process, and the representatives of the public, NGO people should be invited, and they would share their experience on the civil development. And we also need the development of children's self-governance at schools, at classes, anywhere where it's possible. Because if we just give theory is forgotten. If you ask a child 5 minutes after he said something about the civil education, without any practice, a child would forget it within 5 minutes. So After theory, you require practice. For instance, voting, self-governance. Of course, you deliver theory first of all, but then you practice it.
Так, я продолжу. Почему-то все-таки, ну, скажем так,
So, what is wrong presently?
учителя иногда не
Teachers do not know methodology, and that really means that, well, the teacher's conscience is rigid and outdated, conservative.
в основном с нашими нормами по проектированию зданий, ГОСТами,
Like, for instance, our norms to build a building in construction. The same documents have been used for the last 50 years, and they are not vital any longer. Now, the order state, engagement of the school education and the administrative resources is a very tough issue, especially after the municipal elections. You all understand how directors and teachers are connected with the administration and other politicians who press on our directors, and directors press on our teachers. Education should be brought to parents and teachers in the area of civil education. We mentioned NGO, which is important. They should be involved into this process. And then we moved from democracy to some liberal or libertarian values. We did not use the term the state. We rather need NGO or other public organizations, and such specialists are quite experienced in such issues, and they have some information and knowledge which they may pass to their teachers, and teachers would pass it to the students, to the pupils. Now, group 5.
Добрый вечер, дамы и господа. Итак,
Good
я
evening.
попытался быть максимум лаконичным.
We tried to be brief and well,
Второй мы будем пытаться еще более.
and we'll try to be brief in our presentation as well.
Начнем с обратной стороны. Начнем с реальности. Мы постарались
In reality,
при описывании объективного
we tried to describe the existing situation. We simply enumerated what we have at present.
мы шли по определенному плану. Учащиеся имеют
School children have some ideas about their rights and responsibilities. They do not necessarily use them all, but they have some general idea about this.
Далее. Мы говорим, мы резюмируем то, что в нашем государстве
In our state, in the system of education, there is an administrative and command model of management. We do not say whether it's good or bad, but it is there, meaning that certain orders come from top to bottom in a mandatory way.
Далее мы говорим фраза звучит довольно страшно, попасть в это определение,
Next,
определенной системе подавления
there is a certain system of suppressing the personality. In the majority of schools nowadays,
ребята ходят строго, но
there is a certain suppression of personality.
далее мы
There
говорим о
are
том, что влияние в жизни местного
exceptions, obviously, but that's the case.
но влияние, здесь мы возвращаемся ко второму пункту, осуществляется под влиянием, под воздействием как раз-таки административной и командной.
There is an administrative command system of management which influences what should be done at school.
Как мы видим себе ситуацию
Now,
в мире идей?
the situation in the world of ideas, in the ideal world, School children should use their rights and responsibilities,
Вместе с тем мы говорим о том, что учащиеся будут знать права и обязанности учителей.
and school children should also know the rights and responsibilities of teachers.
Далее мы говорим о необходимости появления, возникновения инициативы у
We
учащихся.
need initiatives on the side of the pupils.
Не совпало
They should want to do something on their own, following their own initiative, on their own volition.
улучшать систему своих знаний.
They need to improve the system of their own
Ну и
knowledge.
далее, безусловно, необходимо, опять-таки, выделяется второго наличия у учащихся определенной свободы
School
слова,
children
действия.
need the freedom of speech and freedom of actions.
Ну, как вариант, например,
For
система
instance,
линейного выбора,
a system of non-linear choice of lessons, but on the elective basis. So who is to blame and what is to be done?
безусловно, виноваты особенности менталитета.
Our mentality is to blame.
Особенности менталитета русского народа,
I don't mean Russian people.
сколько особенности
I mean rather the mentality
на российском
of a community which was brought in at this field, at this venue, meaning Russian civilization, Soviet civilization, and so on. And what I mean, well, there is a certain Soviet way of thinking.
Далее мы говорим о необходимости, как бы это ни было смешно,
Now,
и почему это происходит, да? Мы говорим о существовании этой самой командно-административной системы.
since there is a certain command and administrative system, and we know that it is unavoidable,
Почему и третье можно назвать, сакрально для России. Мы говорим третьей причиной
so
отсутствие
reason number 3, absence of civil institutions.
по нашему мнению, есть в Российской Федерации.
So we believe that if there is the civic society in Russia, and we try to find out today if there were citizens in Russia to make up a community. Let's move on. Our proposals, we have plenty of them, but we will focus on most important, not to overload you before dinner. First, we believe that the education system should be further democratized, and we need it necessary for school children to be more free. And if they are not free, they will not understand how much depends on them, and they will hardly grow as citizens. Let's move on, and we think that it's necessary to change the system of training of trainers. Since today teachers at school are not fully involved in the system of upbringing, and they are just teaching, say that Peter the Great lived in the 17th century and the revolution happened in 1917. So teachers are now relieved from the responsibility to raise and upbring their children. And finally, we also believe it necessary that presumption of trust to children prevails, so that when we first meet children, we believe that they are good children. Thank you. We will not keep you any longer. Thank you very much. I really have a desire to start a discussion, since I put 3 question marks that deserve discussion. Group 6. We will try to be brief and not to repeat what earlier groups said. One of the distinctions of our group is that while discussing things, we decided to draw some visual aid on the flip chart. We have some flower and blossom, and also we tried to picture some problems which are just smiles, and the progress with our proposals that will be briefly discussed. If you ask a question if there is a democracy in school, and if we ask you a question who is the boss in school, most of you will say it's the principal. So the majority in our group agreed that there is no democracy in school. Very formal approaches that we can see when at the entrance saying that today the students' meeting will take place, but it's signed by one of the administrators. So there is no freedom both with students and with teachers. They do not know their own rights. And at the same time, it's a new flower, since we have some, initiatives, and we can see that something is growing, something is in the cooking, and and our children, unlike children of the previous century, they have their own opinion, and they know that they have the right for their own opinion. We would like to see real life in school, and so that they would not teach children how to get prepared for adult life. We want them to live full life at school. And we say no to formal events that are held under the instructions from some higher authorities. And as previous groups, we also stress that it's about really upbringing and raising children. And the teachers also have a right to make mistake. Speaking of negative things, what stands in the way for democracy at school? That's the administrative barriers and inadequacy of the legislation. According to the current code, teachers can be fired without explaining reasons. It has nothing to do with democracy. And there is another issue that has not been mentioned, and that is conservative mentality and stereotypes in our mentality. And because most of the teachers and students think that they are not bosses, and so they are not responsible. And administrative incompetence that does not help democracy to be promoted. So we need to change the entire system in school. And according to Mr. Tebelsky, democracy after classes does not cost much. So we are not only changing the system of administration, we are also changing the content and technologies. We get the local community engaged and involved, so that the parents are also included into the process, and children will get some social practice. And I think that the audience listening to us is confident that we are following the right path. I have a comment. So during the discussion in the group, we had similar discussions, and we discussed and debated on some points that we have not come to an agreement. Okay, so despite the dinner time, I would like to say that we had a very heated debate on the fact if we have to change the content, and sorry, cannot hear. I've spent 4 years at school, and I started my career in a rural school in the Krasnoyarsk region.
Кнопочку нажмите. Кнопочку нажмите. Выключайте те микрофоны.
It's nice to hear from all the groups, and at the beginning I would like to say that I'm deputy principal of one of the schools in the Rostov region. I've spent 27 years in my career working in school, and I was listening to you very attentively. And the point that we have nothing in schools, I disagree with that. It's not that bad. And I don't want you to have an opinion that we face a disastrous situation. I'm talking from my experience, and in my school, children really came forward with an initiative to arrange a museum. We built a stage, a theater, and their parents helped us to build a workout platform. And you don't have to say that it's terribly bad, and I can speak for another 32 schools of my locality. There are some problems, but we are working on them, and when you say that those teachers who are old, who are 50, well, they do not understand things, but unfortunately, I would say that graduates from pedagogical universities are reluctant to change, so they are changing even less than those who are 50 and above. Question to the previous group. Who relieved you said that teachers were relieved from upbringing functions. What document? Okay, wait a minute. May 2013, letter of the Ministry of Education on the introduction of upbringing practices, specifying 12 areas, and it made a point about the unity of education and upbringing process. So according to the letter, the upbringing system is being built, including the shaping of civic values. It's not that bad. We are working. And let us work. May I respond? Dear colleagues, I have only 2 minutes, and my team understood that our task was to speak of some bottlenecks, and those other members of the group have some career of more than 30 years, and they participated in all Russia projects, and we can really refer to a few of the examples who were the contest winners. And in our brief presentation, we didn't have a task to give you information on all our programs. Otherwise, we are all optimistic, and we are in favor of collaboration, and we have a lot of friends. Speak into the microphone, please. Stalin calls Beria and tells him to organize collective farms. Beria says, okay, and Beria comes to Georgia, to the Caucasus, and says, dear friends, we need to organize collective farms. They say, okay, we'll do that. So Beria comes back to Moscow, and the wire comes to Moscow, telling that collective farms were organized. Lavrenti Pavlovich, please send us the collective farmers. And I worked for a number of years, and I was assigned a task to build the Center of Social and Public Education. I realized one very terrible thing. I realized all out of a sudden that I promoted democracy with authoritarian methods, and it's even funnier. And if we think that we can copy someone, replicate someone's experience, perhaps I can see Anastasia, who is very democratic in managing the classes. But look how we speak. We pressure other people. In all our remarks, we try to say that we are better than others. So, dear colleagues, we should really learn, and learn. Thank you very much, and I would like to thank all the groups who worked in a very difficult mode, and there were very strict time constraints. And the method suggests that we do not criticize others. We voice our concerns, and we try to place a focus on problems and issues. Despite the fact that, despite problems, we have a lot of good things, and we have success stories, we have achievements on the part of students. Tomorrow night we will have presentations of projects, and you will see how many achievements are there. But today we are trying to identify bottlenecks, and we tell what worries us. And those posters on the flip charts do not look alike, but they are quite similar. So each group took a specific approach to resolving their tasks. And it's a pity that I cannot comment on each poster and open a discussion, but we will continue capitalizing on what has been done today. Thank you very much again.